358. Welcome to Research and Interventions for Phonological Process Delays by me, Chelsea Johnson. So, phonological process delays are defined as when a child has a phonological delay, they are following a pattern of speech development but are demonstrating phonological errors that typically should have disappeared 6 or more months earlier. Early intervention can help a client become better at saying and producing words. This can be done with interventions that focus on lexical, semantic, and working memory skills. So the article that this presentation is based off of is Word Learning by Children with Phonological Delays, Differentiating Effects of Phonetic Probability and Neighborhood Density by Holly Storkel and Jill Hoover. So the reason that this study was written was it is unknown to full extent why processing disorders appear in children with no physical, social, sensory, or cognitive disabilities. It is thought to be because of poor oral motor control, poor speech perception, poor high-level phonological knowledge of how to combine sounds to form words, and how words can be used to compare and contrast meaning. This means that focus of study on motor control delays and phonological retention is usually done in long-term memory. This is important because it's assumed that children with phonological processing delays struggle with no other skills. Word skills may be affected, and that's what this study focuses on. According to the article, word learning is and involves lexical representations, the representation of the whole word sound form in long-term memory, and semantic representations, the representation of the meaning or referent of a word in long-term memory. So there are two factors we're going to look at. Phonetic probability is the likelihood of a sound sequence occurring, and neighborhood density is the second factor, and how many words can be made from that word by just changing a letter to like cat to mat or pup to tup. Rare sound patterns have less than 10 like words. Common patterns have lots of words and are often seen in reading. So the research questions for this article are: how do students learn most effectively? How will the results of the study compare to previous studies? How do phonetic probability and neighborhood density affect word learning in clients with phonological processing delays compared to typically developing clients? Okay, so the participants, there were 54 kids from 3 years, 5 months to 6 years, 7 months. 20 had processing delays, and 34 were typical. To qualify as having phonological processing delay, they were given our old friend, the Golden Fristo, and scored in the 11th percentile or below. They were also tested in areas such as receptive vocabulary, expressive vocabulary, omnibus receptive language, and nonverbal intelligence, and they had to score one deviation below the average or below the 16th percentile, which I realize that has above. Silly me. Okay, so the procedures for this article included stimuli. Procedures for non-words were replicated by a study done by Storkley in 2006, but the difference was these clients were exposed to the words more often. They chose 16 non-words. They did calculations to make sure that they had a wide range of neighborhood density and phonetic probability. 4 novel objects in 4 semantic categories were chosen and paired with the words, and then 2 stories that had 3 scenes each where they used the non-words and the semantic categories in each scene, so they were exposed to them multiple times. Okay, so this took place over 3 weeks. Learning was measured by showing the client a picture of a novel object and see if they could recall the non-labeled word. This was transcribed 5 ways by the clinician, and then it was broken down into correct, complete, partial correct, or neither. And neither were scored as semantic, unrelated, or just unscorable. So again, I got ahead of myself. Sessions were 3 times a week, or 3 once a week over a 3-week period. They were done on the computer in 40 to 45 minute sessions. Session 1 focused on getting baseline from the first story by showing all the novel objects and then the story. Session 2 tested naming from the first story, then followed the same procedure as Session 1, but for the second story. Session 3 tested on the second story. And then they also tested on other things like the receptive and expressive language. And if they did not finish that, then other sessions were added to finish those clinical tests. The results: 4 variables, including proportion of complete correct responses, proportion of partially correct responses, proportion of semantic errors, and portion of unrelated errors were used to measure accuracy and error. For completely correct responses and semantic errors, there was no statistically significant data between the two groups. For partially correct errors and unrelated errors, word type and density varied for each group, and it showed the relationship between the density and probability, which is what we're looking at. Okay, so the discussion portion of the study was confirmed that neighborhood density and phonetic probability do affect one another when tested on clients with typical development and those with phonological processes. The study shows that clients need both for optimal learning. Results show that typically developing clients have unrelated answers to rare sounds in sparse neighborhood. This creates a new lexical association and allows them to learn new words. This starts out the same for new clients with phonological processing. So basically, when you see a new word and the more rare it is, the more it sticks out. And for typical developing students or clients, this means that they will build upon this. And it starts out the same way for our kiddos with phonological processing delays, but it causes so much brain power that it comes at the cost of things such as lexical semantic connections and semantic representations. This study also shows that it's hard for clients with phonological process to keep a lexical representation in their working memory. This could be due that words were produced in the study by direct imitation instead of just auditory exposure, only like in past studies. So this may have helped clients create a lexical representation of the words in their mind, with them remembering words in their working memory. But this may have been at the cost of creating a lexical semantic relationship and a semantic relationship within long-term memory because it requires so much brain power. This could direct future studies about how to introduce new words via explicit testing. So basically what this is saying is that the clients were showed a word and a picture, and why that, instead of just hearing the word, and why that did help them in building a new lexical process. It takes so much brain power when you have a phonological processing disorder that it may have cost other results like semantic results. The conclusion for this study showed that rare sound sequences in sparse neighborhoods can act as clues to sound sequencing, immediately triggering of words learning, helping clients remembering lexical representations in word learning. Okay, basically this is saying, that's all of the official speak, it's saying that words stick out more if they're different, and that helps typically developing students learn them. So we need to help our phonological processing clients help them. So phonological process clients struggle to create at least a partial, complete, and accurate lexical semantic connection and semantic representations for rare sounds from sparse neighborhoods. It's too demanding on their working term memory. So the best interventions would help improve this. Okay, so on to the intervention that I decided for today. Low density or low frequency word intervention. Low density words are defined as that because they have 10 or fewer counterparts. So this can be used in lower elementary from kindergarten and up to 3rd grade if you need it to. The intervention is based on the conclusions of the article. It's included that clients are shown pictures and rare words in sparse neighborhoods together. They will start to create new lexical patterns. By using these words in sentences and stories, clients will work on improving working memory and semantic relationships. By working on these types of words, the client will also be able to read more lexical patterns and eventually move on and apply these skills to higher frequency words. So steps for intervention. Assess the client formally and informally to identify what phonological process delays they need help with. So the Golden Fristo is a good formal assessment to see what kinds of words the client struggles with. Formal and informal assessments in those areas such as receptive vocabulary, expressive vocabulary, omnibus receptive language, and nonverbal intelligence can be conducted for further information. So then you determine what lexical patterns that the client needs to work on, decide if other areas need to be addressed as well. Choose how many sessions over how many weeks the intervention will take place. Choose how many trials need to be done for objects before the client can, for objectives before the client can be tested again for mastery. Then you're going to choose the sounds that a client struggles with first. Pick 5 low frequency words that address this. They may have one common sound, such as like they start with the same first letter or they all end with the same first letter, but they still need to be very different spelling patterns or sound patterns. Words should be rare and only have one sound in common. Occasionally you're going to have like words that have the first 2 letters, but you want to avoid that as much as possible. Add more words once those are mastered while reviewing the old ones, and you use pictures to master these and then complete activities to use in sentences and stories to build semantic knowledge. A later option that can be done much further on is they master all of the words that they need to, you can start using these words in conjunction with high frequency words, and you can add 3 to 5 per session for mastery. Okay, so our goal is the client will be provided with 3 45-minute sessions for 8 weeks. At the end, the client will be able to make lexical semantic connections 25 out of 30 times by using low-density words in a sentence when prompted with stimuli. This will be done by Objective 1. Client will make low-density words starting with the letter J in a sentence. Objective 2. Client will make low-density words starting with the letter P and using them in a sentence. Okay, so here's the activity. Word hunt and chalk sentences. So our client today is Ava. She is 8. She has a phonological processing delay. Her goal is to work on the letter J in the initial position using low density words. So I'm going to tell you the procedures, how you're going to support her, and how you're going to collect data. So the first thing we're going to do with Ava is review 5 words with picture cards from the previous session. For her, those are going to be jeans, jaguar, jewel, jug, and juice. Again, they could be any 5 low frequency words. Students will look at the picture and read the word. Then you're going to have a sensory tray, if you want, filled with rice or sand, and they have to dig for objects, and then so you take the pictures away and they have to match it to the word. Then let them have the objects and let them tell you a story. Here's where that semantic part comes in. If they need the flashcards to write the words, you can keep them or you can take them away, and they're going to write it down in chalk. Why did we use chalk? Just because I think it's more fun and it makes it more different. Kids use pencil and paper every day. You can use a chalkboard. You can use chalk outside. It just makes it a little more exotic and fun. So data will be collected at the start of the session to see if they can say the words correctly. The middle of the session to see if objects can match the flashcards, and the end of the session to see if the words are used correctly in a sentence. So you're getting feedback at the beginning, middle, and end of the session. So the materials you're going to need: picture cards for target words, flashcards with target words written out, objects to match the target words. A sensory tray is optional, and then a chalkboard with chalk, or you can use outside chalk. Okay, so if you have parents that want more resources, here are some resources. Speech Buddies helps parents learn about different topics that will help with phonological processing and connecting with other parents. It just tells them they can look up anything, like how to move your mouth to say a certain word. They can look up high frequency or low frequency words. They can connect with other parents. It's just a great resource for them. This is more key if there is in school. IDEA is the law that governs all of special ed, so parents need to be aware of this. This is really great for younger students, and I find my second graders even like it. Songs for Speech have a lot of different signs for early speech delay, and the videos are engaging, and I know that they're going to address the problem. This is the last one. Common Lit is a great way to find stories for age and grade levels that have a client read different sounds, and everybody can access it, where other services like Raz Kids or Epic you have to pay for, anybody can use Common Lit. So it's a great way for parents to access stories if they can't get to a local library. And these are my references. Thank you for joining me today. Let me know if you have any questions.